admiration. So being invited is really something I feel honored to. Thank you very
Well,
much.
I really appreciate you saying yes to the invitation. Thank you. And I'm going to go straight to the point.
Good.
I know you're in Canada and you're a missionary there. And recently you created a page called Black and Missionary.
Yep.
It's like a Facebook page where the idea is to interact with your friends and your followers, to teach, to educate, to empower. But now, when I saw the title or the name Black and Missionary, I was like, why Black and why Missionary? So, is there an idea behind the whole thing? You want to tell us about it?
Yeah. I would ask, has it something to do with Black Lives Matters or stuff like that? You know, this is a moment. In fact, a few months back, I think last year, around 6-7 months ago, I wrote one poem that I titled Black Time. The Black Time. The idea is or I have another one I wrote also, which is this black child rising. Why am I so interested in this idea of being and why not just missionary? Why should I really add black in it? Yeah, because I'm black. That one is something no one can argue. I understand that once, I didn't know I was black. Within all the time I stayed in Nigeria, I stayed in Cameroon, and even when I was in Rome. But coming to Canada, I discovered I'm black. First reason being that I'm in a community which is a native community, which are not also white. So I discovered it's not just black and white. The world is not just black and white. I discovered that you also have people who are the natives. Sometimes they are being addressed like red people, for many reasons. So, and that I was like, okay, if I'm not them, I'm not the other one, who am I? I'm black.
Yeah.
So you need to be in a place where your identity has to be, you see other possibilities to know that you are different. And not just because of that, it's not just a question of trying to say, because others exist, then I have to. No, it's because missionary has always been known, whether we like it or not, for centuries we have been having the Westerners who have been always going down to other places. So one of the questions people ask me is like, wow, is it the return of the missionaries? Is it not because it's not pejorative, just like you were evangelized and you are now evangelizing. So it's kind of, we are coming to pay back. I said, no, that's not how the church functions. Church is like a family. When there are few people in an area, the others go there. When there are so much here, you go to the other area. So at the beginning, the West never had, the South never had much missionaries. So it was natural that the West that had much had to help the South. Now the South has more, so it moves back. It's not coming to pay back, but just movement of family from one place to the other. So for that reason, and coming here, I just discovered my way of seeing. I want to integrate with the society, but there are things I can't do because I need to know I am someone else. I would want to speak French, but I can't give up my native intonation. I can't give up my native accents. So why do I have other accents? Why do I have other vision of the world? Because I'm somebody else. So for that reason, it's good to recognize who I am, so that I can be able to dialogue with the other. But beyond that, it's just a question of saying, we are blacks, we are missionaries, who work here, but who are coming with who we are. So kind of breaking the stereotype where missionary is white, male, aged. Today, it could be white, it could be black, it could be red, it could be old, aged, it could be young, it could be many things. So just bringing up other possibilities.
No, I see. That is really interesting because I remember that often I've heard people making this mistake, saying that now the blacks are going to re-evangelize. They use the word re-evangelize the West. And I always say, no, nobody's going to re-evangelize. They're not bringing back the gospel to them. The gospel has always been there and it will always be there. But now let's go to to my next question. How does this personality, how does a personality affect or influence your mission within the area you find yourself? Basically, what do you do as mission there? And do you think being Black prevents you from fully manifesting your talents or your zeal or the gift you have? How do you go? How do you manage all that?
I would say, on the contrary, instead of saying that it prevents me, I think it's really something that gives me more opportunity to it gives much opportunity to navigate through this mission for many reasons. I'm with native communities. The natives were colonized, and has it ended? If for to answer that, ask yourself: has colonization ended in Africa even with independence? So being someone who comes from a colonized country, it is easier for me to understand the effects of colonization on the natives with whom I work. Being someone who came from a situation whereby I hadn't certain possibilities, it is easier for me to understand what people are living here. So there are so many things which my own background facilitates for me. So for me to work here, I need to look at my own background. Where do I come from? To be able to know where I'm going. So on the contrary, I think being Black is an advantage because I can understand the suffering of those who have gone through colonization. I can discover, when I look back, I know the errors made during the Christianization, which I distinguish from evangelization, so that I don't repeat the same error that happened in the past.
Okay. Yeah. Wow. Thank you. So, what do you do? What is your main mission there? What is your main charism? What do you do there, basically?
One, I'm a priest.
Mm-hmm.
So I have parishes, like I have two parishes I'm working in. But I don't like calling myself parish priest. I don't like calling my parishes parish. I call them mission. Why do I call them mission? They are not parishes in the sense that they don't have the same structure you have in traditional parishes. So for that reason, I am what is my first aim is to work with my community. And I see myself as a Christian among Christians. Who is in search of Christ with my community. I'm someone who finds that there are things I know about God that my community might not know. There's so many things they know about God that I don't know. So we share experiences.
Wow, this is amazing.
I don't see myself as kind of I'm not a guru. I'm not the all-known parish priest. I have experiences. I have studies that they don't have. But there are so many things they live, they have experience, their faith, and their history of interaction with God changes. So since I came here, when I look at myself, I've been here for like 6 years. If I look at myself between now and 6 years ago, I see two different people. All my friends helped me, but what I'm experiencing on the ground has transformed my relationship with God.
Wow, I like that. I could feel that energy of that sense of complementarity. You know, I come with what I have, and they come with what they have, and we try to blend and see how we can learn, integrate, and learn from each other. That is beautiful. I'm saying it's beautiful because often, from my experiences, what I've seen, what I've heard, what people have shared with me, is that you hardly, or I won't say you hardly, you see praise or religious leaders that always want to be at the top. They think they have all the answers to every question being asked. And you saying that there are things you know and there are things your community know. And then you guys come together to blend both. For me, it's a way of witnessing, you know. We complement each other. And that is one which is beautiful. Like I say, I'm raising this because you hardly, or I have my own experiences, hardly get praise that put themselves at that level to say, okay, I do not know. Maybe I want to learn from my community. If you want I'm in the community, I'm the leader of the community. So they all have to do what I have to do. I have to say, they all have to obey me. I don't know, but it's for me, if that is the attitude you carry along, for me, it's beautiful. Just keep it up. And I think when you have such an attitude, it makes it easy for people, those you work with, to ask you questions. And most often, from where I grew up in our country, it's basically indoctrination. Excuse me to use the word indoctrination. You go, you just take everything, you just swallow everything, and then you go home. For example, our grandparents, they could go to church, they participate in the mass or they celebrate the mass in Latin. They don't understand what they're saying, but they're just saying it, Nobody could ask any question. But the beauty of you having an environment where people could ask and interact is beautiful. I saw this in Poland during my pilgrimage. The young people could raise questions, sensitive questions. In the past, the missionaries, they had all the answers. They tell the people, you do this, you do that, you do that. They had all the answers to the questions. But today, people are not stupid. They are not stupid. I grew up thinking the story of Adam and Eve was a true reality. Or you come today, you ask someone will ask you, who was the person that was there taking the photo of Adam and Eve or recording the story, So, people are not so stupid today. They're raising these questions because they are worried. They want to understand what they believe. They want to understand their faith. And most often we try to just trash it easily without helping them understand. And I feel that, and that is why I created this forum today, for people to ask questions, for people to ask. And so many people have asked a lot of questions. I'm going to bring them directly to you. And one of the first question has to do with, let me take a break, has to do with, in our culture, we have the traditional African religion. The traditional African religion is considered as very bad or ritualistic in most cases. People don't believe that you could dialogue with them. They see everything as evil. So someone asked me, so before the coming of the missionaries, my grandparents that died, and they were not baptized as Christians, does it mean that they didn't go to heaven or they went to hell because they were not Christians? How would you answer that person?
Yeah, it's a very cogent question. You can't just wave it, because if we teach that outside Christ there is no salvation, it puts into question every other religion, starting from Islam, going through Judaism, and the many other ones. That was something that we believed in for a long time. In fact, there was even an idea that outside the church there is no salvation. So there are so many evolutions in our comprehension of salvation, the story of salvation. There are so many evolutions. So one of those ones is like the idea of our native, our ancestors. In fact, I'm just wondering why we didn't see the book of there's a particular thing, Hebrew chapter 2, I can't remember the verses, where it says that God revealed himself in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
But today he has revealed himself in Christ Jesus. So what does it mean? It means that it's not because my ancestors didn't hear about Christ that they didn't see God's revelation. They saw God in nature. They saw God in whatever we see. One thing we forget is that if I'm a Christian today, one of the major reasons that I was born in a Christian family, I was born in a Christian nation. You can tell me that somebody who was born in fully Islamic setup and who was really a good practitioner, who never heard about Christ, how do you think he's going to believe? Faith is not something you just pick from anywhere. Faith is something that has to do with communication. You have to hear about it. So being in contact with God does not mean there are so many ways to enter in contact with God. It could be through Christian religion, Catholicism. It could be through other Christian denominations. But it could also be through Islam, through our native, our own native African traditional religion. And one thing is certain: it is not because some might say, yeah, but today Christians have arrived in our place. Yeah, it has arrived in our place. But does it mean that everybody, because faith is a gift. That's one thing people forget. It's a gift that God gives. It's not by force. So I think if we are to reason that way, we should even ask God, why didn't he give them those? Why didn't he give those people the faith? Why didn't he? But that's another question altogether. So it's not because being a Christian, there was someone like Gandhi who was saying, I don't like Christians, but I love Christ. You know, it might not be the same way he said, but that's exactly what it meant. So there are so many things who worship God, who believe the gospel, even without knowing Christ. So what matters is Christ is the truth. He is the way and the son and I'm the way, the truth, and the what's the third one? And the life. Yeah, life. So if you are truthful, if you're following the right way, maybe you have life in Christ. It's not because there's so many people who say I'm a Christian, but they're not. Remember, Christ said, "Not all those who call me Father, Father will be." Yeah. So there are those who don't call him directly Christ, but they call him truth. There are those who don't call him truth, but they call him way. There are those who don't call him way, but they call him life. So it's about what we live. It's not. In fact, Christianity is about those who Christians are those who live like Christ. It's not those who say they are Christians. So if I live like Christ and I don't say it, does it mean I'm not a Christian? Or if I say I'm a Christian and I don't live like Christ, am I a Christian? These are many questions that one can ask.
Okay, thank you. But now I want to take us back a bit. Okay, let me just jump this question. I want to take us back a bit. But what do you think prevents people from having the courage to ask these questions, like troubling questions regarding their faith?
Okay.
What do you think prevents them from asking?
One, you have to create an avenue for it. If I'm a teacher and I come to a class, why teaching? If I don't show the students that they can ask questions, they won't ask questions. If I don't, even when I ask them to ask questions and I don't show them that they have right to ask questions, they might not ask. Or if they ask and I don't respond it, even if they ask stupid questions and I don't treat them like with respect, they won't ask more. So in your own context and in mine too, I think one of the first way is first to tell people don't like those that will stand on top of them. Yeah, you might know everything, but the way you respond to it shows if people want to hear from you. So if we let them know that we know everything and we respond to them in a way they don't understand it, they won't ask again. Somebody asks you a question and you respond and he feels stupid because he can't say he didn't understand, but he really didn't understand. He won't ask you again. So what is my method? My method is when I come to people, and that I use it mainly even in the mission. One is when I come to young people, I come to them just first as NNAEMEKA. Generally, I don't present myself like I don't say I'm father this. I present myself as a person who enter into contact. And along the line, then you come to know who I am. Because sometimes you tell somebody, I'm father this, they feel already inferior. When you are in structures like in an house, we're in our own structure, Nigeria and Igbo culture, where priests are supposed to know everything. So once you bring it, there's a relation of authority. People don't like, they respect authority or they fear authority. I would use that word. They fear authority. So I think why don't people ask questions? Because they were not given opportunity, or even when something it appears that we give them opportunity, we don't give them real opportunity. So what do we do? What should we do? Go to people, allow them to ask stupid questions. They start with stupid questions, and at the end, they ask good ones. So method matters a lot.
Yeah, thank you. I think that is very important, that the opportunities are not created. People don't have that forum, or they don't feel that they could ask. And I think this is where each person as a religious leader needs to ask himself, am I approachable? Can people easily approach me? I think that's one thing which is very important. Like when we look at Christ, for instance, or Gandhi or Martin Luther, people were able to go around them, to rally around them, due to the fact that the message they're trying to communicate was easy to understand. But at the same time, they allowed themselves to be approached, to ask questions. And most cases is that people feel that when you ask a question, when you raise a question up, they get mad. They feel like, okay, you don't respect them, or you're just trying to show that you know too much. So there's like that humility. So allow yourself to be challenged or be questioned. It's not there. And I think, as you say, people really need to create a forum where people could ask questions easily. And then I want to take us to the next question. Recently, in your posts on Facebook, you you were talking about traditional names or women taking their husband's name. In a traditional culture like yours and basically from the same culture, we know the importance that a woman, once she gets married, she has to take the name of the husband. We feel that she has to. It's a must. If she doesn't do that, they say she's stubborn. And this stays like as an ideology in the head of most people. And today the world is changing. I bring it back to today. People are changing. They're like, why do I have to take my husband's name? And the man, if the woman doesn't take his family name, he feels the woman is being disrespectful. So what can you and you from the article you wrote or the post you made on Facebook, you're trying to let people understand that taking the name or not taking the name, it's a matter of choice. So do you want to throw more light on that based on the Christian perspective and also here?
Yeah, in fact, one brought up the other, the idea of like using native names in baptism. In fact, at a point, it was like there are many parishes that it was really you have to. Lucky enough, I was baptized with my name, NNAEMEKA, which is a native name. Not all my brothers and sisters were baptized that way, depending on who is the parish priest that time. So sometimes we go for names of saints, which I have nothing against, Those are good names, but they have no meaning for us. So have you ever seen Saint NNAEMEKA or Saint, I don't know who? When will we have that? If I die and I become a saint, which I don't pray for.
Yeah.
I don't pray to be canonized. Yeah. So if I become with Cornelius, who knows who I am? But why can't we have NNAEMEKA, Saint NNAEMEKA? So that if a young boy in my village sees Saint NNAEMEKA, he can imitate that name because he knows it's somebody who has something common with me. But when I see, that's one of the problems we have with those names, saints like Saint Cornelius. His reality are totally different from mine. I can't imitate him. He's just disconnected from my own realities. And we know that names are secondary nature. So, so it means that God did something. I have to be very, very conscious of that. So name says things about us. It could influence the way we act. But if you take a name that has no meaning, it won't influence you. But that's by the way. So on the question of women taking their husband's name, I have nothing against too. I have to state that. I have nothing against it. One of the errors we can make is to create a law to counter a law, impose something to end an imposed reality. People should avoid it. This is not men's stuff, it's women's stuff. But it's good that we talk about it. So we need to look at it from the beginning. Was it this way at the beginning? No, it wasn't. It wasn't that way. There are many facts that prove that. We don't have our ancestors, maybe we didn't have written documents of their origin. But take the case of the Aba Women's Riot. You have heard about it or you know about it. Yeah. Check the names of the actresses, those who really acted, did stuff. You can see their husband's name there. They have their names. Maybe you don't have their parents' name, but they have no husband's name attached to them. They had their names. Those are among the first written stuffs. And we know that what happened was that after that Aba riot, the colonial masters discovered that the Igbo women, and not just Igbo women, many other ones, had enough power. So what did they do? They had to take their power and give it to men. To be able to control them. They know they can control men, but they didn't know how to control women. So they had to take them away from them. And then started imposing certain realities that is a practice in Victorian England, which among most of those, one of those is just this taking the husband's name. In fact, in Europe, most of the European countries, we can date because those have written history. We can discover exactly when it started and when it ended. We can discover when children started taking their father's name. We know when they started taking father's and mother's name. We know those are things we can see. But it's not because on our own we don't have where it is written that is not true. The proof that is true is that in my own context, my grandfather, and my grandmother don't have the same name, both paternal and maternal. And even in our own villages, it doesn't happen that way. They don't have it. So why is it that today we make it like it is something that is part of our culture? My own problem is don't make things that are not our culture part of our culture. You can tell me that is what is a convention. It's okay. And if women are okay with that, I don't have anything against it. But don't make it.
But how would you, yeah, sorry to cut you. Sorry to cut you. But how would you make the man understand that? Because he might feel that the wife is disrespecting him. And the woman might have nothing against it. I just want to say my name. How would you help the man understand that?
It takes a lot of time. When we're discussing this, I know 2 or 3 guys who said, I will even advise my wife. Young guys, I know these are people from my village who said, I will advise my wife to keep her name. And I like the way they said it. I will advise. I won't, because you can't say, don't take my name. You should be imposing something on her. But giving her a choice either to take or not to take it, that's very powerful. But once one person do it, next person does it, and so on. But one thing is certain, whether we like it or not, it is going to end. I'm not a prophet, nor a son of prophet, but things are changing. We don't have any choice. Young guys are asking questions, and I'm sure even young boys are ready to change things. So whether we like it or not, it's going to die its natural death with time.
Okay, thank you. So I want to, in line with this names and couple, I want to take us to the white wedding and the traditional wedding. My viewers, when I talk about traditional wedding, I mean the Africa traditional wedding, not the white wedding or the Christian wedding. Don't I'm going to speak French. So like in our culture, most people that are not Christians, they stick to traditional marriage. The dowry and everything. And then later on, they go to a sacrament to do the white wedding, what we call to get married in church. But now the challenge is that there are young couples that do not have the means for the white wedding. Why? Because sometimes due to the idea that comes with it has to be a lavish wedding, very luxurious, expensive wedding. So that they fear to approach that, so they stick to their traditional marriage as couples. So the question I get from someone, is it wrong? Is it bad not to get married in church, and then you can still stay as husband and wife after the traditional wedding? So how would you answer this person?
That's true. If we look at history, marriage was not always a sacrament. I'm not inventing it. I think I've written something about that too. And it's true. Marriage wasn't always a sacrament. But that's not all about it, which I'm not saying is wrong to be a sacrament. It's very nice, because initially marriage wasn't even about love, but today is about love. So we can't go back, because we really want to be about love. So if I say, let's go back to when it wasn't sacrament, I could also say, let's go back when it was not about love. But we know we can't sacrifice that. So what am I trying to say? I'm just trying to say, it's not wrong, but let's not just take it as if it just came down from heaven that way. It came to be at a point. So marriage, I feel the same pressure even where I'm working. If they listen, they know that. I just tell people, marriage is not about celebration. I don't even like that word, white marriage. You don't need to wear white to come to celebrate your marriage. Wear your traditional, wear clean word. The idea is that white is immaculate. I say white is not immaculate. I stay where you have snows. You need to watch snows from outside. They look very, very immaculate. Like, go close to it. It is really, it stinks. If you want to see what is immaculate, look at charcoal. Charcoal is very black, but it is on fire. So what am I trying to say? the idea of white wedding, just that's even the major. If you just say marriage, religious marriage or church marriage, it's okay. It will be nice. So why? What are people contesting? People are not contesting the idea of marriage. People are contesting the material aspect of it. I don't think it's the church that imposes that. I think we need to educate people more on that. You can come to the chapel. In fact, in marriage, this couple that marries themselves, people should know that the priest is not the minister; is a witness. So is the church, is the couple that pronounce the words. The priest just accept in the name of the church. So it could just be the couple, the priest, and maybe one or two other people. 5, 6 person, you can do marriage, and everybody come very early in the morning, do it in your morning mass, go about your daily actions. It wouldn't be less than other marriages. So people are just afraid to get rid of the expensive part of it. So are we going to throw away the baby with dirty water? No, we should remove the baby, which is retaining the marriage, but throw away all the excessive part of it and find out that it has no problem. It's very powerful. Here we do marriage and religious and court marriage and religious marriage the same day. So when I do it, I do religious civil marriage and religious marriage the same day. So you don't need to do two stuffs, and you can do it and go home. But people continue spending, even though I say you don't need to. But they like it, so I can't impose it. It's their right to do what they want with their money.
Thank you. I think that is something which we really have to understand, because I like this popular saying in English: cut your coat according to your size. I think there is no need for lavish wedding. People should understand that you don't have to spend a hefty amount of money to organize your wedding. Even the sacristy, you can have your marriage. Yeah. As I say, I think that's very important. We should help people appreciate the beauty of simplicity. Sometimes that is what is missing, and people are so used to. Because I'm talking about this based on your recent post. You posted about the grotto and you read about the amount of money spent on it, and yet this same community will find it difficult to put up a school or to use money for education. You're not saying building churches is bad, but there's no balance. And you can feel that there's no balance. Even when the church built a school, the parishioners or the kids of the parents that help in building that school can't even go to the school. Why? Because it is so expensive. I don't know if you get me.
Yeah.
So people are not taught to appreciate the beauty of simplicity, or to set priorities, or to understand how to balance things. So how do you help people understand that sometimes we have to have a balance? We need to strike a balance. Both the Christians, the Christians, or also the religious leaders.
Some people think I shouldn't meddle in what does not concern me. Sometimes I will just laugh. Like when you go into politics, speaking that touches politics, people will tell you, be your priest and leave politics. Or when you touch something that touches family, will tell you, be a priest and leave families. I say, I'm not a stateless man. I come from a family. I'm a member of a society. So whatever touches a member of the society touches me. Whatever touches, whatever policy touches the people touches me too. I'm someone. So, but I do understand too that there was these categories of priests or religious being people who are set apart. I like the concept of set apart. But who is not set apart? Marriage is a vocation too today. We know that. So why is it that we don't think that married people are set apart? You don't become priest because you are special. No, you become priest because you have that vocation. The other one is not a priest because he's inferior. No, because he doesn't have that vocation. So what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is that if we know that we are brothers and sisters, then we will be able to dialogue, discuss. So what can we do? We'll continue disturbing, saying things the way it should be. I don't mind. It's not because when you talk about Pentecostals, I wouldn't mind saying what I think about them. But that wouldn't prevent me from saying what I think about Catholic Church. I'm a member of this. If I don't talk about it, who's going to do that? So what are we doing? There are many of young guys who are provoking the youth to speak up. I'm not saying that we are trying to create rebels. No, we are trying to ask people that they have right to ask questions. We are trying to ask people that they have rights. Even when they don't understand, you have right to doubt. People don't know that. You don't believe what is said. It's not big. You don't say yes just for saying yes. You need to have a minimum of understanding to accept. Faith is about being convinced. When you're not convinced, ask questions. So what can we do? We continue telling the young ones. We show them questions can be asked. We ask them to ask those uncomfortable questions, which they ask. And when we don't know, I say, I don't know. I have discovered to say, I don't know the answer. Is there heaven? Yeah. How is it? I don't know. Nobody told me about it. So I wouldn't construct ideologies to tell you this is how it is. So there are so many questions you can ask me. I will tell you, I don't know the answer, but this is what I think. They should know that this is what we think. So if we give them that opportunity to know that they can ask questions and they have right, it is of their right, and also even their I'm looking for the word in English, devoir. It's kind of their assignments. It's a kind of they have that assignment. Yeah, they should question their parish priests. They should question their bishops. They should even, I don't know to go to the step, but sometimes say you can't even question God. People shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. We should be afraid of not asking questions. When you don't understand, be very, very polite. Ask the right question and you get the right answer. And don't take wrong answers because you are afraid of what the other person says. If you're not convinced, tell him, I'm not convinced. My Lord, I'm not convinced. My Lord, your answer is not sufficient for me. And if you're a priest or you are a religious leader, you don't know the answer, say, I don't know it. I will think about it. I will research on it. And if you don't find out, tell them you don't know. They know you don't know. Even when you answer it wrongly, they know you don't know. So be bold enough and humble enough to say you don't know. And things will be better for you.
Wow, merci beaucoup, mon père. Je pense que ça, c'est très important. Parce que, je sais pas si tu peux résumer ça en français, ce que tu viens de dire maintenant. Hello, viewers, please, due to the French listeners, we will try to interchange the languages, okay?
Yeah.
So, mon père, est-ce que tu peux dire ça aussi en français? Quand même, il faut conscientiser les gens pour qu'ils sachent qu'ils peuvent ou bien ils ont le droit de poser les questions. Enfin, ils ont la peur de demander des choses à cause de l'hierarchie.
Dans ma communauté, et quand je suis avec des jeunes, moi je leur dis souvent, vous avez le droit de poser des questions. Vous avez le droit même de proposer des choses dans la communauté. Moi, je ne prends pas une ma manière de faire la mission. C'est que s'il y a des nouveautés, je les discute avec ma communauté. Je n'arrive pas demain pour dire on va faire la messe dès demain le matin. Non. Je pourrais dire à la communauté, moi j'aimerais qu'on fasse des messes le matin à cause de ça et de ça et de ça. Qu'est-ce que vous en pensez? S'ils me disent non, on ne veut pas le matin, on veut le soir. Je demande pourquoi et on essaie de regarder le pour et le contre. Quand ils ont raison, on va suivre ce qu'ils disent. Mais si j'ai raison, eux aussi vont comprendre. Et donc, qu'est-ce que j'ai fait? C'est que j'essaye de toujours entrer en contact avec les gens. J'essaie de leur faire savoir qu'ils ont le droit de ne pas accepter ce que je dis. Je n'ai pas la parole de la vie éternelle. Celui qui l'a, c'est Dieu.
C'est Dieu, c'est le mot.
Je n'ai vraiment pas la parole de la vie éternelle. Donc, ma parole n'est pas évangile. Ça devrait être parce que si je parle selon l'évangile. Mais c'est que je n'ai pas le dernier mot. Et donc, si je ne leur donne pas l'occasion de poser des questions, comment je peux savoir s'ils comprennent ce que je dis? Comment je peux leur poser des questions s'ils ne peuvent pas me poser des questions? Il faut qu'on se dise la vérité, qu'on a besoin de dialogue. La religion n'est pas le christianisme. Le christianisme, vous savez, pourquoi le Christ a vécu avec les autres, a voyagé? C'est un Dieu qui accepte de faire le chemin avec des gens comme Judas pour 3 ans. Pourquoi il le fait? C'est parce que même si Judas est Judas, même si Thomas est Thomas, même si Matthieu est Matthieu, ils sont quelque chose d'important en nous. Je pense qu'il faudra vraiment arriver à cela, à dire aux gens, poser des questions. Vous n'êtes pas d'accord? Dites-nous pourquoi vous n'êtes pas d'accord. Essayez de dialoguer, de dire aux gens, oui, vous avez dit cela, mais je ne pense pas que c'est possible. Et ma communauté le comprenne. Quand je dis je ne peux pas, ils comprennent que c'est que je ne peux pas. C'est pas que je ne veux pas, c'est autre chose. Si je ne veux pas, il faut qu'il y ait une raison assez suffisante pourquoi je ne dois pas le vouloir. Mais la parole de Dieu, c'est Jésus qui est notre modèle. Moi, je le regarde, ma communauté le regarde. Tous ensemble, nous allons vers lui. Chacun apportant ce qu'il a de précieux. Merci.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. Merci beaucoup, mon père. Merci beaucoup pour cette parole. Thank you very much. I'm going to switch back to English. So we continue. You know, I want to read a comment here, and it goes in line with what you said earlier on, because I like what you said. People should feel okay to doubt. It is okay to doubt. It's okay to question. And I think this is where I like what Jimmy Cole, Julien Comier is saying here. Ask questions, even to God, just like in many Psalms. So I think this is something which is very important, that no matter, even though you say you have faith, you should be able to question what you believe. You know, ask, why do I? And this kind of, I believe that by asking, it helps take you out from being an extremist. Then, if you understand me, so because I'll give an example. There's this, I get this young man here often, and not even here, even in Nigeria, you get people, or a Christian says, I'm not going to work in a beer parlor, like in a bar or in a restaurant. I'm like, why? He said, my pastor said those places are evil places. So if I go there, I will go to hell. This young man doesn't have a job, and he's been offered a job in a bar or in a restaurant. Just because his church or his pastor or his religious leader or the Bible says you shouldn't drink alcohol, or I don't know, the man refuses to take the job because it will lead him to temptation, to sin. Not it will lead him to temptation, it is sin already. So and then you get people that are asking you, oh, what do you think? Do you think I should work as a masseur, like somebody would give the person a massage? I'm like, he said, I'm like, you can't, if you offer a job with a good salary, you can take care of it. He said, no, it's sin. So how do you help these people understand? Because you see, at the end, they get, I want to say, drunk in their faith, which is also, it's not bad. But at least I think that there should be a sense of balance, you know. So how do you help these persons understand that sometimes once you have these opportunities, it's not sin. It's just what life or what God presents to you. As they say, I love this. It's a science. It's prayer answered.
You know, one of those controversial issues I always touching is our catechism. I say it to whoever wants to hear it. That stuff, that book we use as catechism, that book can't form anything faith. I'm not afraid to say it. That book predates Vatican II. In fact, the original, the first, is that book is just a copy of a penny catechism, and is a modernized form of Baltimore catechism, which was written in around 1640 something. I mean, 1640 something. That these questions. I was looking at one French catechism that Jimmy posted recently. It was written in I think 17 something, and that catechism is really more developed than what we are using in Nigeria today, mostly in our Igbo land. Who created you? God created you. Why did God create you? What is this? What is man? Those are outdated stuffs. I'm not saying they are not valid as points, but they do not explain anything. They don't talk about how God created me, yes, to love him, yes. But how does God love me when I'm suffering? When I go to church on a daily basis and I don't have work? Why is it that all my effort is not paying up? There are so many questions that those catechisms do not touch. So how can we do that? We need to change. If we want to change the people's way of life, change their way of learning. If we don't change our way of learning, we can't do anything. So I've said it. Every year, one in a while, they come and change the cover. They come and change one or two words and think they've done something. I said, no, we need to go back. Stop all those stuff. Develop something new. A kind of teaching where we take realities. Why is it that people suffer? Why is it that there is war? Why is it that there's hunger? Why is it that there is things, that relate to their own experience, personal experience? If you don't do that, you can't do anything. So I think, how do we begin? We'll go back and tell ourselves that the method we are using to communicate our faith is not attuned with the people they are destined to. So we need to change the method. If we don't change the platform, you can't build anything on a wrong foundation. So let's change the foundation, and we'll see that the house will be better. So things have to be done. We don't know what he's going to give, but we shouldn't be afraid. It will never be worse than it is already.
Right. I like that. Thank you. I like that. Contextualize the learning process. Yeah, that is very important. So to my viewers, sometimes you get me putting my eyes down. I'm trying to read off the questions.
Okay. I like that.
So I want to go straight to some questions, because for the sake of time, like I asked, because somebody asked me, why do women wear trousers, whereas the Bible says the woman shouldn't wear a man's clothing? And you get in Nigeria and some part of Africa, some of the Protestant pastors, not everybody, they're putting the mind of the people. Like, okay, when you drink beer, it is bad. When a woman wears trousers, it is bad. I don't know. So how can you help it? As I say, it's all boils down to the same thing, striking a balance in the way you're teaching. So
I didn't know how serious that question was till when I happened to write something about it. In fact, throughout my 11 years present in Facebook, I never had to deal with something like that, like the question of women wearing trousers. I wonder, how can people think about it? It's not possible. So I just come up with kind of text to clarify certain things. And when I listened to what people were saying, like the idea that youth girls shouldn't wear trousers because it's a sin, I said, where do you see that it's a sin? And what they say, they give you, I think, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5 of chapter 5. Yeah. So women shouldn't wear men's clothes. I said, what is men's clothes? So I said trouser. I said, who said that? We know that in the ancient days, when during Deuteronomy, even time of Jesus, there was no trouser. So was that quotation talking about trousers? No. In fact, what they forget is that when you go down to that particular chapter, you find a way you say you shouldn't plant one plant and another plant together. You don't mix plants. I don't know if I've ever. You shouldn't fold the edge of your clothes. And there are so many things he said. I said, why those ones that were specific, we forget them, we take them for granted. And when it comes to things that was never said, we begin to argue unnecessarily. And I said, look at the history. In Africa, the first people that wore trousers were women. The Amazonian soldiers were women. They were the first group to wear trousers in Africa. So when people tell me it is brought up from the West, I say it's not true. Trouser was even in our place before it went to England, before it went to most of the European countries. It was already in Africa. So, and trouser was just a comfortable way of riding on a horse, which if a man rides is good for him, if a woman rides, it's good for him. So it has nothing to do with Bible. I've argued with pastors who try to say whatever they want, but people say what they want to hear. The Bible is one of the books that you can defend anything you want. You can defend that you can kill somebody because there's so many quotations that if you just turn it small, it will defend it. You can defend that you can, I don't know, go on war. In fact, war has been fought using war, using Bible. In fact, racism, the treatment of slavery, the treatment of blacks was defended using Bible. So there's so many things that have been defended using Bible. But today we know those were wrong impressions. So we need to correct them. So anybody that tells you wearing trousers is a sin, tell the person that wearing even wrapper that makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
So it's all about how is it? Is it decent? Is not decent? Decent is not about trouser or skate. We know mini skates are the worst thing you can talk about if you are talking of decency in terms of Nigerian context. But That's the word for you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I love the answer. Straight to the point. I want to answer the next question, but I will bring it like a joke form because I was seeing a movie yesterday, and this white girl, she went to her friend's house. Her friend is black, so in a friend's room, she saw the photo of Jesus, like a painting of Jesus, a black Jesus with the scarf and then with the chest, like someone who works out with the abs. So she was like, wow, Jesus is black. This is the Caucasian, the white girl asking the Jesus is black? The friend said, yes. So why are you asking that? He said, because in my house I grew up, all the photos of Jesus I see is white. And the thing that your own Jesus is cool. So it has abs and so it was like it was funny. But it was, so for me that kind of triggered what people ask often. Like the next question was, why do we have paintings of Jesus as white and the devil as black? And then you have now in most like in southern part of Africa, like Malawi, Zambia, even Kenya, I've seen people that make this artwork of Jesus, like Jesus. So what can you say about that?
In fact, the best biblical black Jesus or black way of representing black arts, religious art is in Cameroon. Jesus Mafa. I don't know if I've heard about it.
Yeah,
you need to look for Jesus Mafa. You have stuffs that are really churches. In fact, initially I never saw it also as important as anything. But today I think I've come to a stage whereby the way things appear influences the way you relate with it. Whatever representation you have of God determines the way you enter in contact with Him. As I was saying, if I go to the youths of today wearing my how do you call it, my sultan and everything, sure, they will like that. You are a priest, but okay, like you are a priest, you are cool. Yeah. But if I go to them this way, I play basketball with youths, they play rough, they like it, they don't stop. But then after playing at a moment, when you sit down with them, they don't have problem asking you real questions because they see you as one of them. So if God, as long as God continue, and I say it, as long as God continue to be a white man, a black man can't enter in contact with him. You might want to do whatever you want, but I can't understand, I grew up in a place where you have to, like, before I go to school, I need to walk for like an hour or two before I get water. How does a Jesus that's always lived his life in where he opened his borehole understand my reality? But if I see Jesus as someone who also could have had my own experience if he was born in my own context, I think it would be good. So why do we have white Jesus? Because most of those things were developed in Europe. So you want them to develop a black Jesus when they don't even know the blacks then? They developed according to their own context. Should we change it? Maybe we should try to adapt it. When I go to a church, I see Santus in my village church. I say, what does my parents know about Santus? It's not just he's wearing the word. It talks to him. It talks to my mom. My mother knows what it means. It's not just, but it is, we like, when we understand too, sometimes we also, because of our relationship with certain cultural stuff, we like mysteries. So as long as it remains mystified, everybody's at ease, but no one asks real question. So I'm not saying you should change every Jesus into black Jesus, but we should give people opportunity. We should give people things that can help them really have conversation with him. We should feel like Jesus is my brother. If I say Jesus is my brother and he's having blue eyes, what brotherhood is that? Yeah, I believe, because my brothers in religious life are my brothers, but then it remains very far from me. So things have to change.
I think this is very beautiful, because it reminds me of my time when I was in Congo. And once I asked the young people, I said, if you get a child from Syria, and then you get a child from maybe somewhere, let me say from Canada, You bring those people together. You ask the child from Syria, who is God for you? He will tell you, the child will tell you, God is a man that likes to destroy. He likes to use guns to kill or bombs to kill. Then you ask a person from Canada that lives in a loving, in a good home, or who is God for you? Oh, God is a loving father. He's like peaceful, you know. So you see, these are two people, two kids expressing who God is to them from their own realities. But at the end, what is important that we have to, based on what you're saying, we need to adapt. Adapt doesn't mean we are denying one or the other, but we are trying to help people relate to the man they are serving from their own personal experiences. And I think that is where you have to let people understand that Christ suffered just like you when you experience these challenges, just like you're experiencing it. And then in that, they find consolation and they find the motivation to go ahead. So really, I really love what you said. Thank you so much. I'm going to go straight to the next question, which is, this was asked to me by some Jewish friends. They're like, why is it that in the church, only men can be praised and bishop and pope? We don't have women that can be praised and bishop. These are Jewish friends. I give them an answer, but I said, okay, I'll bring it up to you today to talk about it. Like, pourquoi seulement les hommes qui sont des prêtres, ou bien des évêques, ou bien des papes, est-ce qu'on ne peut pas avoir une femme? That's the question they're asking me.
These are very important questions, and there are so many ways to answer it. What does the church say about it? That's one thing. The church says because the apostles were men, so the priests have to be men because they are the representative of apostles. I don't have anything against it. That is what the church teaches, and it's okay. You know, logic is all about what are the parameters of communication. I know there are other people who also ask other questions, like assuming that if Jesus was to come today, was he going to appoint only men? That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know if I've watched one South African film, The Son of Man. I like that film, where Jesus came in another context. You just need to watch. It's just an African context. He wasn't crucified. He disappeared. Because the idea in South Africa, Jesus couldn't have been crucified. It doesn't exist. And that is true. When people say cross is beautiful, I say, what is beautiful in cross? Cross is not beautiful. If Christ was to be born in, I don't know, in Nigeria, maybe he would have been kidnapped. And one day we just discover that he has died he would have just died in a. Have you seen any important person that they crucified? Jesus, he wasn't, Anyway, that's not together. But you say context sometimes matters a lot. I'm not saying because I really trust the church and I believe what the church says, that because Christ really had men as his apostles, so it's normal that men became. But I'm not saying, if somebody asks, if Jesus was to come to them, another question, if you take an example, during the time of Paul, women couldn't ask questions in the church. Are they not asking questions today? They're asking. So why should and people judge Paul then? I say you can't judge Paul. Before Paul, women couldn't enter into the church. They couldn't enter into synagogue. We know that. So bringing women to synagogue was something you couldn't think of. Jesus having even some women within his own rank. These are things you can't think of. So there are so many things that maybe we.
Let me cut you. Sorry, let me cut you. I'll cut you. You know, I gave this answer, and the next question that came in. Hold on. But he sent Mary Magdalene to announce to the apostles that he is risen. And then they said the 12 or the 11 became apostles because they were going to announce the risen Lord. So they were like, okay, well, he sent Mary Magdalene to announce, to go and proclaim. So that means there was a woman.
Jesus had women within the context. That's very important. But I'm also very sure that Jesus couldn't have named a woman within the 12, within that time. Mm-hmm. In fact, Jesus, he was not normal. No, there was nothing he did that was right. Even having those, even his apostles wouldn't understand why his own way of doing things was different. So imagine if he had taken a woman that time. So Mary Magdalene was there, but we know that when they named the 12 apostles, she wasn't there. I'm not saying that Christ couldn't have done that. I don't know what he can do and what he cannot do. But within the context of Jesus, it was impossible for Christ to name a woman among the apostles. That one would know it. Would he have done it today? I don't know what Christ can do and what he cannot do. I'm not questioning the church, but I'm just saying that the context in which Christ named the 12, there was no way he could have named the woman. If Jesus come back today, will he? I don't know. Christ knows more than I do, so I can't really speak in the name of Christ.
Thank you. Thank you. So I'll go to the next question. Second to the last is then this is a question which is open. We get it open. Even on Facebook, you see it a lot. People keep making this mistake. I say people, because I know that Catholics, we know that we don't worship Mary.
Yeah.
Most people out there think that Catholics worship Mary. So how would you explain this to them that Catholics do not worship Mary? And a follow-up question to this is the idea of, because they pray to the pictures of saints and or statues, they say, okay, they're worshiping, they're idol worshippers. Some of these things are taught in the catechism superficially, but some people they want something more deeper, you know. So how would you answer these two questions? The Catholics do not worship Mary, and praying to statues or images is not an idol form of worship.
The straight answer is that Catholics don't worship Mary. We don't worship saints. We worship God. That's the straight answer. But it doesn't just go easy that way. You can't just say it and just go about saying I've answered it. Is it true that every Catholic don't worship Mary? It depends on our level of understanding. The principle is clear. We don't do that. But then, what is our relationship with statues? When you say you pray to the statues, I say if you pray to the statue, you are worshiping the statue.
Yeah.
So we should be very precise. We don't pray to the statue. So why do we have statues? Why do we have all those things? You know, everything. If you just take these things out of their context, you lose them. We know in the medieval time and at the beginning of Christianity, we never had written words. So things were communicated through drawings. The first word of communication was drawing. Even Christians had to they use fish to show who they are. So there are things, images that bring us close to God. Just why do we have a church? Why do we need to build a big church? We should just stay along the way and pray. Jesus never built a church. Why do we need to have a nice altar? We don't need that. Jesus never had an altar. So why do we do all those things? Because we need environment. We need a context. We are, much in our own context, we are people that need symbols. Symbols are very important. Symbols are not, they are like kind of medium. They help us to enter into contact with something. There are people that don't need all those stuffs. You find out that there are Catholics who, they go to chapel, they go before they start, but they don't look at the statue. It's kind of, you just create that aura of, but it's not, their connection is not that. So those are just things that help us to contact. I like Buddhism, mostly when you talk about about yoga. If you have ever participated in a yoga meditation, one of the things they tell you is look for a master, something you can hold on. So if you're a Christian, they tell you, try to vision Christ, enter in contact with him, hold on him. You need that. First thing is just you need to maintain your environment. Second thing, to have something to hold on. And then the third thing is now you can move ahead. They can tell you if you love your dog, hold on your dog. If you love your something very tangible. And that is very important. If you don't have something you can hook on, you can't do anything. It's none. So those are sacred objects, but our relationship is not with those. Our relationship is with God. It just creates a kind of medium. If not, why do people need Bible? Why do people need? We need materials. We need objects that can help us to step there and move ahead. But if you pray to statue, you are worshiping the statue. But if you pray to God using whatever you have as a kind of a stepping stone, you are not worshiping. Catholics don't worship statue.
Wow. Thank you. I love the way you put a full stop to that. So I want to go to the last question, and this is something regarding your post. I think a few weeks ago you wrote about it's coming out to the same thing about the names. But I think in Nigeria, this is in Nigeria, when sisters they make their final profession, if I'm not mistaken, other than first profession or final profession, they are asked to take masculine sense names. I don't know if I'm mistaken, but they're asked to take name like, okay, for example, Anthony Mary or Philip Mary or I don't know. So what is the idea behind all this? And what do you think as a priest? How do you feel about it?
I feel at ease. I don't have anything against a sister taking, I don't know, Judas Iscariot as name. But is a sister who doesn't take it less important than the other one that takes it? That's nothing altogether. I'm always very, very careful when it comes to things that touch womanhood. There's a problem that we might create. Like you come and create, you think what is happening is wrong. You want to tell them what they should do. That's mansplaining. I'm always very careful not to mansplain to any, but it doesn't prevent me also to say what I think about it. In the history, it's not just about our place. It's happened first in Europe when the first missionaries came to our place. That was what was obtainable. So we just inherited them. Most of them have given it up. It's coming up again in most of the new religious congregations today. People they do whatever they want. I have nothing against. But then, is it really so important? People will say that one of the reasons that it is something that changes who you are. Therefore, you need a change of name. But I'm thinking baptism is the highest thing that happens to a Christian. Every other sacrament is secondary. The major sacrament in our Christian life is our baptism. That's the foundation. So if we think that our religious profession is more than our baptism, if we think that the name we take as a religious is more important than the name we take for our baptism, I have nothing against. But then, is it more important than a baptism? No. Should they change it or not? It doesn't concern me. I don't mind. They can even take, I don't know, whatever they want. But there is no law. I mean, universal law. Every congregation have their own law, so you can't say there's no law. But there's no universal law saying they should. Should they stop taking it? As long as they belong to the congregation, before they join the congregation, they know it is that way. So you can't tell me you didn't know before going. But should it change? I pray that it should change. I want to see sisters who are called Chiroma. I want to see sisters who are called Ngozika. I want to see sisters who are called Nedi. So I want to see things people I can relate with, people that their name tell history that our own culture and our own relationship with God is very important. That is very important to mention.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything, really. Thank you so much. I want to conclude, but I want to conclude by asking you two questions. Or one question. You've been in Canada for 6 years now, if I'm not mistaken. Your mission, what are the pros and the cons, or the beauty and challenges you've experienced so far? Can you name some events that you feel has marked your life? So je demande s'il y a des défis ou bien aussi des mots très forts pour toi que tu as vécu dans ta mission.
Okay. One, I used to be, when you finish your formation as a religious or as a seminary, and when you become a priest, there's that formed. So there's an idea of I know what I need to do. But since I've really started my mission in a context totally different from where I grew up, I noticed that there are so many things I didn't know. Even my relationship with God. changed a lot. I had almost a crisis when I arrived here. There are so many things that I was brought up telling. I grew up knowing it was a sin, like things that touch spirituality. I was always a rebel. I had friends even today who are native doctors. I visit them when I go on holiday. Even as a seminarian, I used to have them. I used to visit, go to their shrine, we discuss. My relationship with people are always on basis of who they are. What they do, that's secondary. I know we shouldn't just relegate it to, but it's very important to that one. So when I arrived here, I discovered their spirituality, their relationship with nature, their respect for the creation, for the land, for water, for everything that exists. There's this particular respect they have for objects, for things that exist, because they know that they were created by God. That we are asked to dominate, as it is translated, does not mean that we have the last say. Our existence depends on the way the environment is. These are things we never knew about. I came here, I discovered those stuff. So it changed even my own relationship with my own culture. Languages, I love languages. I speak many languages, but I never valued my own native language as I do since I came in contact with a language that's totally different with all I've known before. But it didn't go very easy. It took me a lot of time to accept that I don't have the word of eternal life. So it changed me. Me that grew up, that came here, might not be me living from here. So mission changes, but it demands kind of humility, knowing that you know, but you don't know enough. That you need to learn from your people, and that people of God, it's not because they didn't do theology that they're not theologians. Their life is a life of faith. Their life is a life of struggle. Their life is a life of relationship with God. Those are things you can't learn from the books. Those are things you don't learn from the walls, from walls of the seminary. These are facts. These are existence. These are relationship, proven relation with God. These are things you learn when you come down to the level of your people. But it doesn't go very easy, as I said. You need to do violence even to your own existence, your own faith, and tell yourself that the people are my brothers and sisters, and I need to work with them. Thank you.
Really, thank you so much. I think Father Jimmy wants to ask a question.
No.
So he has two questions to ask. Please feel free to pose the question right now. Okay, just type them and I will put them up here.
He's summarizing what he's summarizing your conclusion.
Okay. So I think, Father, I think one thing which is important is what you say right now to me is that you had a crisis of faith. I think when we have this an experience we need to go through sometimes this crisis of faith to truly find ourselves, to understand why. And this crisis might come as a result of questioning things, but we should feel okay to question. Because my first crisis of faith was when my mom died. When my mom passed away, I was like, that was the first time my faith was like, whoa. And then coming to Jerusalem, they say it's holy land. When once you come to Jerusalem, you see the soldiers with the guns everywhere. You're like, where? You're like, is this the holy land? I can get, and then you go to the Holy Sepulchre, you see the priests, like you see all kinds of. I thought, growing up, I thought there were just only Catholic, Roman Catholic, and then Protestants. Coming here, see the Greek Orthodox, the Armenian Catholics. That was like, wow. It was like something that really shocked me. But going to the Holy Sepulchre, which is supposed to be the holiest place, and then you see all these priests fighting among themselves. You're like, oh, what is this? So at the end, you realize that it boils down to the fact that we are human. No one has the ultimate truth. I like your words. I do not have the words of eternal life. God does. And we are only instruments. We are only being used by God. And unless we allow ourselves to be used, we'll only continue to cause havoc out there. But I think what is important is, what I'm taking with me is create an environment where people question you. Create an environment, a forum where people could ask questions. And feel free to say, I don't know when you don't know. but also be able to learn from each other. Really, thank you so much. You said so many things, but I think the videos will be up on YouTube later. But for that, they'll be on Facebook. Really, Father, thank you so much for making our time, for making this possible. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners, and I hope we continue to talk, to have a honest conversations like this. At least we can have time to learn a lot from each other. Thank you so much, and God bless you. And thank you, my friends and viewers.
Yeah, welcome. Let us continue to make love go viral.
Yeah, it's put on the shirt. It's written, make love go viral.
Yeah,
I think that is very important. What is important is love. Spread that love, spread that energy. I always say it costs nothing to smile. That's now with the mask, it's easier to smile with the mask. And when I put on the mask and I see somebody, I'm smiling without the mask. I'm like, dude, it's not saying you. Take off the mask. So I think our eyes can also express that joy, that smile. So let's continue to make love go viral. It's very important. And be people of love, be kind to people, and respect each other. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you.